This section is for at-risk and adult sponsors only. F&S is now allowing the use of Offer versus Serve for adult daycare center sponsors and at-risk after-school programs. Offer versus Serve, also known as OVS, is an approach to menu planning and meal service that allows participants to decline some of the food offered in a reimbursable breakfast, lunch, or supper. Children and adults who are offered food choices are more likely to eat the foods they enjoy rather than throw the food away. Offer versus Serve, also known as OVS, is an additional way to serve meals to participants in adult daycare facilities and at-risk after-school programs. Offer versus Serve is not appropriate for young children, as young children need time to explore flavors, textures, and develop taste for different foods. Using OVS is optional. Before we dive into OVS, let's review a few key terms. A food component is any one of the food categories that comprise a reimbursable meal. A reimbursable meal must contain all food components in the minimum required portion sizes. The 5 food components include fruits, vegetables, grains, meat alternates, and milk. A food item is a specific food within the food component. For example, toast is a food item from the grains component. You can see that vegetables would be a food component you would serve for lunch, and the vegetable that you serve might be celery. The celery would be a food item. When using OVS, sponsors may serve food that has been pre-portioned or have participants be directly served by the trained staff. In OVS, participants may decline 1 or 2 of the meal components of the components offered. Offer versus Serve is only allowed for breakfast, lunch, or supper. It may not be used as a service style for snacks because snacks only contain 2 components. In CACFP's version of OVS, 2 servings of the same food items may not be served. For example, while apple slices and applesauce are 2 different forms of apples, they are considered the same food item and cannot be served together as part of a reimbursable meal. However, sponsors could choose to serve apple slices with the mandarin oranges instead of applesauce. The goal of OVS is to provide participants choice while still allowing enough components and variety to provide a healthy meal. The CACFP breakfast meal pattern requires 3 food components to be offered: milk, fruits and vegetables, and grains. As a reminder, fruit and vegetables are 1 combined component in the breakfast meal pattern. When using OVS at breakfast, at least the following 4 food items in required minimum serving sizes must be offered: a serving of milk, a food item from the fruit and vegetable component, a food item from the grains component, and a food item from the meat alternate component or additional item from the fruit and vegetable component or grains component. A child or adult must take at least 3 different food items from any of the food items offered. The food item selected may be from any of the required components and must be in the required minimum serving sizes. When using OVS at lunch or supper, at least 1 food item from each of the 5 food components in the required minimum serving sizes required at lunch and supper must be offered: a serving of milk, a food item from the meat alternate component, a food item from the vegetable component, a food item from the fruit component, and a food item from the grains component. Note that all 5 components must be offered, and a vegetable may not be substituted for a fruit in OVS. A child or adult must take at least 3 food components rather than 3 items to ensure the child or adult takes an adequately nutritious meal. Adult sponsors. Milk is optional for supper meals served in adult daycare centers and does not need to be offered when serving an OVS supper. In the next few slides, we are going to look at sample menus for breakfast, lunch, and supper, and see what would need to be included in a reimbursable meal. First, let's look at a breakfast. The first breakfast offered consists of a half a cup of berries, half a cup of grapefruit, 1 serving of pancake, and 1 cup of 1% milk. What would need to be taken for a reimbursable meal? As long as a minimum of 3 items are taken, any 3 items will make up a reimbursable meal. This means berries, grapefruit, and pancake would make a reimbursable meal, as would grapefruit, pancakes, and milk, or any other combinations with at least 3 items taken. Next, let's look at a breakfast with a meat alternate option. What items need to be taken by a participant to create a reimbursable meal? Same again, the participant can take any 3 items in order to create a reimbursable meal. This means they can take cantaloupe, yogurt, and toast, or cantaloupe, toast, and milk, or other combinations, as long as a minimum of 3 items are taken out of the 4 offered items. This will be a reimbursable meal. Now let's take a look at the lunch menu. For lunch, 2 ounces of Parmesan chicken, 1 cup of spinach salad, a 1/4 cup of strawberries, 1 cup of pasta, and 1 cup of 1% milk are offered. What needs to be taken for a reimbursable meal? For lunch or supper, the participant must take at least 3 food components out of the 5 components that are offered. This is different than breakfast, where 3 items need to be taken. Because this meal includes 5 different items that are from 5 different food components, the participant can take any 3 out of 5 components that are offered to make a reimbursable meal. This can include chicken, spinach salad, and strawberries, or spinach salad, strawberries, and milk. Note that the participants can decide to take more than 3 items. 3 items is only the minimum amount that needs to be taken. Let's try a harder example. For supper that day, you decided to serve a turkey and cheese sandwich, a 1/4 cup of oranges, and you had some leftover strawberries from lunch. So you put that in as an additional option, along with a 1/2 cup carrot sticks and 1 cup fluid milk. What are some different combinations a participant could take to create a reimbursable meal? Same as before, the participant would need to take 3 components out of the 5 components offered. In this case, however, the turkey and cheese sandwich makes up 2 components, the meat alternate and the grains component. In addition, there are 2 items on the menu that are from the same component. The oranges and strawberries are both from the fruit component. Since only 3 components are required, this means that taking a turkey and cheese sandwich and 1 cup of milk would be reimbursable, because this would make up 3 components, the meat component, the grains component, and the milk component. As would taking oranges, carrot sticks, and fluid milk. This is because this would contain a fruit, a vegetable, and a milk component. However, taking oranges, strawberries, and milk would not be a reimbursable meal. This would only have 2 components, the fruit component and the milk component. In this case, staff should encourage the participants to take 1 more item, such as the carrot sticks or the turkey and cheese sandwich, so they will have at least 3 components. If a participant wants to take all 5 items that are offered, they can as well. This would be a reimbursable meal. In offer versus serve, participants can always take more than the minimum, but the minimum of 3 components for lunch or supper must be taken. In summary, offer versus serve is a versatile meal service style that allows older children and adults to have more flexibility to choose the items they like while still getting a well-rounded nutritional meal. For breakfast, 4 items from 3 components must be offered, and participants must take 3 of the items. For lunch and supper, 5 meal components must be offered, and 3 meal components must be taken by the participants for a reimbursable meal. Participants should be allowed to take more than the minimum items or components if they choose. This concludes OVS training. Thank you for participating in the CACFP Meal Pattern Offer versus Serve training for CACFP. If you have any questions, please contact your assigned child nutrition specialist. We greatly appreciate the work that you do to fuel Oregon's future.